So this is the truest sense of the word. Stellar Blade is the definition. So when you look up these words, Stellar Blade will show up. Is returning to form. Yeah, we're going back to when games were good with beautiful characters and have good combat. This game, Stellar Blade, is also saving Western game development because it will inspire Western game developers to have beautiful characters in your game and have good combat mechanics in your game. Stellar Blade will, in fact, inspire them not to be afraid to make beautiful characters because beautiful characters and people do exist, and this will give them inspiration so they don't have to be fearful of that.
Original release, Stellar Blade drops onto PC and within a matter of days sells over 1 million units, still selling right now. And media outlets aren't really too sure what to think about it. You got a few of them that are.
That's the thing that's so funny, guys. Just to think about the games media journalists, they don't know what to think because their whole narrative for the past, I want to say, like hardcore past 7 years have been uh, uh, trying to tell you that because a character is beautiful, that something's wrong with you. Like the character can be sexy and powerful and have good gameplay.
Fumbling around trying to pretend like they've liked it all along. A couple other ones that are trying to shame you for enjoying.
If I sound weird, guys, like I got sick again. So about a week ago, I recovered from a cold, and then I caught another cold, and it's been a week, and I'm not getting any better, I think.
It. And then, of course, you got a couple of others that are saying that the game is only popular because of Asians, because they don't count. Or
Yeah, that's
what you guys like.
first of all, that's extremely racist. You're literally saying their vote, opinions, and sales don't count because they're Asian. That's crazy.
The truth is, Stellar Blade was never the right kind of game in their eyes. It wasn't made for the right reasons or how they want games to be made or what they.
If you play a Souls game, Bayonetta, God of War, Gears of War, this is a game for you.
Want games to do, and that's a problem because when the media doesn't like who the game is made for, well, then they gotta find any way to be able to diminish its success through subtext.
Also, guys, appealing to, I would personally say the most primal part of the human brain, which is powered by the loins. Appealing to that is not a bad thing. Now, appealing to that and then backing it up with a good story and then good gameplay, that's the hard part. And Stellar Blade I personally think the story is interesting and the gameplay is pretty good.
Or whatever means that they can use. But this game is much more important than a lot of people give it credit for because it's exposed a double standard. It pushed Sony to get rid of region locking, delivered one of the.
Oh, yes. After Nintendo's BS and problems I have with them, Sony, they need to stop forcing us to make a PSN account to play on Steam when in some countries you can't make a PSN account.
Cleanest PC ports that we have seen in years, and it sparks a discussion that goes far beyond thick thighs and camera angles. I've played.
Yes, the port of the game is fantastic. It runs extremely well, even with like very old PC parts. The game runs pretty good.
Stellar Blade. I really enjoy it, and while I've been playing it, it's not perfect.
Well, I don't like when people say it's not perfect. Like, what does that even mean? Nothing is perfect. But for what the game is and what it delivers, it's pretty good.
Really shows just how hard people try to misrepresent it. And that's incredibly frustrating. So today what I want to do is I want to break down the game itself. I want to talk about the backlash that it faced and what this really says about the industry. Because it's not that Stellar Blade didn't.
What it says about the industry is there are a bunch of spineless, empty-minded robots because they're just going to take the opinion that the top has and then trickles down. Because I don't know if you guys know, majority of the game journalist companies are owned by like the same company. It's like how BlackRock and Vanguard owns every other company in the world. It's kind of like that. So all their opinions are the same. There's no creativity in their writing. There's no they don't have an original opinion about a product.
Anything wrong. It didn't break any rules. It just exposed the truth. Stellar Blade was always a bit of a curiosity. Even before its launch, it had this slick-looking, high-end visual, stylish combat, and eye-catching protagonist, and it stood out as a rare console release, AAA console release from Shift Up, the Korean studio behind Goddess of Victory Nikkei, a wildly successful gacha game. And this is something that we've been seeing more of lately. More studios that are making a fortune off mobile or gacha games that are using that money to.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's kind of crazy that you have to make the crazy amount of money from the gacha games, but then use that to actually make it a AAA game. That seems like so backwards to me. That's crazy.
Fun, real full-scale releases, not another monetization funnel, actual games. Side Games did it recently with Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which then sold over a million.
Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, fantastic game. Uh, we wait. Those of you who waited for this game, like they delivered. The game is fantastic. It kind of sucks that we wouldn't have any more DLCs.
Copies in under 2 weeks. Stellar Blade then followed, hitting a million units that were sold in just a month after the game's launch, while it was still exclusive to PlayStation 5. But then came the PC version. A year
Yeah, guys, PS5 like exclusivity that has to go. That has to get deleted.
after the release, Stellar Blade dropped on Steam, and it immediately became one of the top sellers. It broke over 90,000 concurrent players in a matter of hours, and then
You love to see it. I just love to see like games like this like totally go against the quote unquote mainstream journalism and just totally shits on their faces.
passed 180,000 players at peak hours, then climbing up towards 200,000 by the end of the week. Sony later confirmed that it was the fastest-selling PlayStation title in Steam history, moving 19 times faster than any of their
Now, if we can get a collab with Monster Hunter Wilds, that would be fantastic. I might change my male character to female just for that.
other ports. That one release more than tripled its lifetime sales, pushing it towards 3 million copies sold, and it's still rising. Now, I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. I did not see that coming, and that is partly on me because I read
Honestly, I knew this game was gonna be big back when I played the demo on PS5.
a lot of reviews, not because I necessarily
It's a good game, and given of her visual appeal, you know, designing for the more primal part of the males, uh, it would help. And the combat is good, and the character is good. It's like Kratos. Kratos is a great character. The combat is good, and like he's a very masculine character, and she's a very feminine character, but they have great combat.
trust all of them, but because I just want to get a temperature check. Is the game fun? Does it run well? What's the combat like? But with Stellar Blade, even though most outlets gave it a solid review score, it was an 80 on OpenCritic at the time, I didn't realize just how much of that coverage was drenched in subtext. The reviews weren't about how the game played, they framed it as a knockoff, a diet.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I have noticed about game journalists for a while. They don't judge the game or any of that. They'll compare it to something else they want it to be like, and then judge the game on that. They don't judge the game for what it is and how it plays and what it offers of being that product. They're gonna take the game and then compare it to something else and be like, oh, it's not like this. It doesn't have pronouns or genders or this or that. Just judge the game for what it is. That's like me reviewing a hip hop album and I'm comparing it to country and saying the hip hop album don't have this, that don't have characteristics of a country album. It's ridiculous.
Near Automata, a game that you should feel embarrassed to enjoy. Not because it actually deserved that, but because that's how they wanted it to be seen. I only realized what was happening after two things. One, I actually played the game, which we'll go into later, and two, Shift Up quietly did something incredible, and nobody gave them credit for it. Now, you guys might have missed this because a lot of people did, but Shift Up actually approached Sony to lift the region locks that had blocked Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and a bunch of other games for being sold in over 180 countries. Now, this was not a soft ask. It ended up leading to a full policy reversal, one of the biggest moves that Sony has made in years, and what happened? Silence. IGN covered the ongoing discussions that they had originally had, but once it actually went through, no follow-up, no articles, no credit, not to Stellar Blade, not to Shift Up, and this is one game. This one game helped make PlayStation games globally available again. Apparently, that wasn't worth
That's pretty fantastic.
reporting on. And the minute that happened, it brought everything back into focus. How targeted this game
Hopefully, the whole Sony, because I believe Sony owns the IP for Helldivers. Hopefully, Helldivers 3 doesn't have the big F up that it did. The Helldivers 2 had at launch and the whole Sony BS.
game has been since the very beginning. I mean, before its launch, IGN France had published an article, a big piece more than anything else, calling Eve a doll that was made by somebody that's never seen a woman. Later, they
Yeah, whoever said that, that person might be might be like flame retarded.
ended up having to walk that back because turns out the director of the game is married. His wife is an artist that works at Shift Up, and Eve was modeled after a real Korean actress. Then after that came articles like how Stellar Blade became 2024's most controversial game. I thought that was
I don't see how that became most controversial game at all.
Black Myth Wukong.
And Black Myth Wukong, I honestly believe that there was a lot of racism and biased fake news propaganda BS because it's Chinese company. Honestly, I know people play the card out, but I do believe it was because it was Chinese.
A couple of other games now that I think about it. Stellar Blade's
But Black Myth Wukong also have it on the PS5. It's fantastic.
design isn't the problem, it's how creepy men are being about it. Stellar Blade reignites Gamergate discourse, and of course the reviews. Oh my lord, some of them knocking 30 to 40 points off of
Yeah, who are these people reviewing the game? I also bet you these people didn't even play the game complete the story or play New Game Plus, because the game does offer a little bit different experience in New Game Plus.
For the score, not for bugs or broken mechanics, but because Eve was
Let's see. Stellar Blade is a pretty enjoyable game. Okay, so we here two words. Honestly, okay. Is the gameplay good? Because I'm playing an action game, is the gameplay good? Even if Eve was literally like pixelated, it does not change the fact that it's a good game.
was too hot. And now here we are again, same game.
Because a character is too hot, you can't play the game. I know some other people like joking, quote unquote jokes about it, air quotes. They joke about, oh, I can't play the game because she's too hot, right? But
Same outrage. Vice drops an article.
Obviously they're joking. That person, the person who wrote that, honestly, they need mental help.
Stellar Blade breaks Steam sales thanks to its thirsty fan base. PC Gamer throws out Gooner Game of the Year, pointing out 41% of the month.
Really? Gooner Game of the Year. So I don't consider this a Gooner game because, like, she's literally by herself, not doing anything. Any of those Gooner activities, you know what I mean? Like, she's literally by herself fighting. It's not like the male character or female character. There's nothing going on.
Mods or smut. This message is not subtle. If you like this game, you're a creep.
Honestly, I know all those things. The female fan base, like, I know all those things you guys read. Some pretty weird stuff in there.
That's what they're trying
That's
to
coming from a guy.
Paul Tossi of Forbes chimed in, tweeting out that the game's success was mostly because of Asians. Like, that somehow makes it
Once again,
as if Korea, Japan,
crazy
China
comment.
They said the exact same thing about Black Myth Wukong. It's not really popular. It's just big in China. Oh, okay, Chinese players aren't real. Is that
So let's reverse it. The Americans make a good game, but in China it doesn't get an award or win anything because it's it's an American game. Their opinions, their sales don't count because this is China. You know see how crazy that sounds when it's reversed?
Is that the argument now? Now, I think this is really important to point out because of how
And extremely racist.
insidious all of this is, but what this framing really does, subtly but intentionally, is tell you, the Western reader, that you don't have to care, that this game's success is distant, foreign, and not your win. That's the most important part, that it's really not that popular because it's not popular here. All it is culture war nonsense that is dressed up as consumer.
Also, I think these game journalists forget that America's probably the most diverse country on the planet. So, like, especially people who live in the East Coast, it's pretty diverse. You can literally experience every other culture in New York, for example. So, and majority of the people who live in the United States live on the East Coast. So, it being a Chinese game, a Korean game, a Japanese game, that's not really that far-fetched or alien to me. Because one, I live on the East Coast and I use the internet, so like different cultures are not that crazy to me. Maybe it's just me, but somebody else's culture, it does not seem that foreign to me at all.
Analysis, and that's when it hit me. This is the exact same thing that happened to Wukong. I was reading PC Gamer's Stellar Blade review, and two things jumped out at me immediately. Two red flags that made it very clear that this game wasn't being judged on what it was being judged for.
Thank you. It's not judged of what the game is not being judged for the type of game it is.
Who it was made for. In Molly Taylor's review, she wrote, Stellar Blade's opening hours are so mired by atrocious level design that I can only assume that players are willing to plow through for the sake of seeing the protagonist Eve's bum jiggle around in a skin-tight suit for just a bit longer. Do I blame them? Not necessarily, but it's a mighty tough beginning to get through before things start getting good.
Sounds like a skill issue, lady.
And they do, eventually. Though even after 30 hours, I still couldn't shake the feeling that it was trying a little too hard to beat Nier Automata on horny steroids.
I didn't even do it. I literally predicted what they were gonna say, because I've noticed this for the past 10 years. They're not judging the game for what it is. Now they're comparing it to Nier.
Isn't that essentially just Viagra?
Yeah, I don't know where these journalists were trained or where they go to school for journalism, but that's crazy. Because I can remember in like middle school and high school when we have those English exams, like it literally teaches you how to take or how to analyze an article and then dissect it. You know what I mean? Like these people are kind of doing that, but they're totally missing the point of like judging the game for what it is.
Almost identical. The end of the Earth as we know it now populated by monstrous alien life forms. A scantily clad woman fighting to reclaim the planet and save humanity alongside a drone
Is she a woman though? Technically, she's a robot. Android? Cyborg?
companion soundtracked by eerie female vocals that almost stand parallel to the horrors of the world. Now listen, I've been in these trenches before. I've been playing Shift Up's other title, Nick A, Goddess of Victory, since 2023. I am not new to this developer's particular brand of goonery. If you are
Honestly,
new to it, however, Stellar Blade's ass shots, jiggle physics, and
if anything, the physics is very accurate. Like real life accurate.
barely there outfits are out the wazoo. Does the World War characters ever acknowledge that fact?
And the part where he's talking about outfits that barely have any cloth or fabric on, go to New York City in the summertime. What Eve is wearing, it's not that crazy. Just saying. Come to New York City in the summertime.
Bar one backstreet merchant. No, it's a bizarre juxtaposition in a game that so heavily sexualizes the undeniably glamorous Eve despite being a
And they walk in the street like that.
wholly sexless personality existing in a sexless universe. In fact, Eve has very little personality at all. The same can be said for the supporting cast, Adam and Lily, who, despite me wanting to know more about them, never really offer up much information. This
What do you mean personality? They gotta act like the Joker? Like, what do you mean? If anything, that kind of adds on to the story. These characters are not human.
is the exact same thing that happened to Black Myth Wukong. Reviewers were calling it sexist because there weren't any women in the game, only for the
They didn't play enough of the game. These journalism did not play enough of the game to get to any other point where there actually is female characters and pretty cool ones. That's like them playing Dark Souls 3 and can't get past that tutorial boss.
second half of the game to introduce several major female characters, including bosses, goddesses, and other key story figures, but that never made it into the conversation because most critics had already decided what the game was, and it probably stopped.
Yeah, for those people who did that with Wukong, bro, that review needs to get taken down, and that person needs to be publicly shamed. Like, that's insane. You're literally just literally false information, and you're supposed to be the source, the quote-unquote news source for the game.
Stop playing it before it could ever prove them wrong, and now it's happening again.
That's why the only opinions I listen to are from other people who have the game and play it.
With Stellar Blade, it's the same sleight of hand. These guys do not want subtlety in games. They need everything spelled out loud. Molly Tyler writes,
That's also crazy for you to have everything spelled out to you. If you were to say that, then I fear that you might be mentally challenged, and I apologize. Because I don't want to make you feel bad. Because I know you're not all the way up there.
does
The
the
light,
World War
all the lights are not on.
characters acknowledge Eve's sexualization or her lack in personality? No, except yes. Yes, it does. Eve isn't human. She's an android engineered by an AI
Ah, thank you. Thank you.
to be the perfect being, an artificial answer to flawed humanity. The characters are named Adam and fucking Eve. This isn't even
I'm pretty sure that went over their head, or if it didn't, they didn't want to mention it because they hate the Bible. Because somehow these, and I'm assuming these people have the rainbow colored hair, they hate the Bible for some weird reason.
subtle. It's biblical. They are not meant to look normal because they are idealized by design. This only goes over your head when you are actively looking for something to hate. And that's the trick. And I want people to understand this. This kind of negative framing is not accidental. It is a tool. Outlets will praise the visuals or mechanics, but the start of the review is criticizing Eve's design, priming the readers to see the game as juvenile or shallow. Once that lens is set, everything else, combat, writing, even level design, gets dragged down with it. I've seen plenty.
That's, bro, I can remember when my teachers in middle school would give us, once again, it goes back to English class, and my teacher literally told me in the 6th grade, don't judge a book by its cover. And I believe that's what these game journalists are doing.
Of reviews calling out the level design for being atrocious, but after playing the game myself, no, it's not Dark Souls, but it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly serviceable. The real weak points are the uneven voice acting and the clunky writing, but that's honestly about it. Now, this is something that I didn't notice until much later, but both Stellar Blade and Black Myth Wukong are such strong enough games with clear enough appeal that the critics could not outright pan them. They could not just score them terribly. So instead what they did was they attacked around the edges. All the review scores landed around 80 on Metacritic, but the tone never matched the score. Instead, you got condescension, moral posturing, and when challenged, we would get the exact same excuse. What are you talking about? We were
Yeah, like I'm supposed to get moral advice from an emotional, where this person's emotional intelligence is literally in the negative. They're getting mad for the most insane reason. They're not like thinking logically at all. They're throwing logic out the window, and they're literally having their own biases influence the way they write their articles. They don't analyze the game. They don't remove their biases, like remove themselves from what they're playing. They totally biased and having their own views reflect on their writing, which I feel is crazy, because if you are a journalist, you should literally have no opinions. You literally should be writing the facts, analyzing a situation, and writing about that. Your opinions, how the way you feel about something should not be in that article. That's not your job. Your job is to remove yourself from it and look at it logically on all angles.
Reviewed it positively. I've read that so many times in so many articles on these games. They use that number as a shield while the text quietly tells you that this game is something to be ashamed of or something that you shouldn't play. Now, some of this is conscious, some of it isn't, but either way, the pattern is the exact same.
And that's the thing that's lost with the news. Is there's a left side, right side, and everybody's writing an article and speaking and acting through the lens of their own biases. They don't look at all the angles, and they don't remove themselves from the thing that they're watching or analyzing.
We're in a global culture war right.
They act like when you criticize it, that you're specifically attacking them. When you're not, you're attacking the BS that they're pushing down your throat. Because any sensible person will look at something and see that that's wrong. Clearly that's wrong. Clearly you're lying to me. You're gaslighting me. Example. When everyone was saying that Joe Biden was fine, this is the healthiest he has ever been. And us as viewers knew and watched and be like, there's something wrong with that man. He's not all there. He needs help. And then months later, we found out that he has cancer and probably the chemo effed him up.
Right now, and games like Stellar Blade and Black Myth Wukong have become symbols of everything that games journalists do not want to win. These titles are...
I am so glad that game journalism are becoming extinct. I am so glad. They have been an absolute menace to the game industry. Mostly to the people playing the game. Like the players, they have been the enemies of the players. But hey, guess what? That's a fight they would never be able to win because there's way more of us than there are of them. And they need us and our money for them to live.
Proudly made for a male demographic, and that alone invites ridicule because the idea that men...
I'm pretty sure that's made for a male demographic is ridiculous. Sure, there's some truth to it, but I'm pretty sure females love this character. Gay females love this character. Males love this character. And so that's kind of everybody, don't you think? It's not really made for the male character. Like there's a lot of females, straight females who love Bayonetta. They like her character, her dress, her personality. Like you can like, what are we talking about here? The gays love Bayonetta. So what are we talking about here?
And might enjoy something and that it might succeed without appealing to everyone, that is seen as a threat. And the hypocrisy here is so obvious. These critics will gush over a dating sim where you can romance inanimate objects, they'll celebrate progressive themes, they'll cheer...
Romancing inanimate... Dude, that's weird. If you say furries next, that's...
You're on Baldur's Gate 3's bear scene, but a slick action game...
Yeah, the bear scene. That's funny and sick.
With a hot lead, that's the line that you're going to draw? The truth is, I don't think that these guys realize how much worse they are making things for themselves. Gamers have always pushed back against this kind of pearl clutching. This is
and we will always push back. We have the power. They have no power.
Messy, rebellious, unfiltered, and
never forget that, guys. If a company is doing things, making things for your money, you have all the power. They have no power. Vote with your wallet.
Over time, they have watched it get sanitized in the name of inclusivity or in safety, not real safety or inclusivity, just the kind that looks good on a press release. Now, the irony is the people that these folks probably think that they're protecting don't even need it. They've always had games that were made for them. The issue is when...
And guess what, guys? All of us exist because of our basic human instinct of procreation. That's why we're all here.
Every single game needs to...
That's not a problem. That's not an issue. Unless, it gets crazy and I don't have to explain. Guys, I really don't want to explain that.
To be reshaped to fit one narrow ideological mold. When anything doesn't fit, it's just going to get quietly shamed out of existence. I mean, Stellar Blade is a mature rated game, obviously designed for men.
That's the thing too, is for the past 20 years, example, Call of Duty is rated M, but that majority of their player base is not 17 plus.
And that is okay, though, to be honest with you guys. I've seen way more women adding me on Twitter ever since I started talking about this.
Yeah, Twitter's crazy. Also, please vouch for me on this. If this has happened to you, you will see the most craziest thing said out loud, maybe to you, or seen in general, and it's in your own house. It's your parent, your sibling, your extended family. Majority of the like you learn cursing, bad habits from your family. So let's not blame the game, okay? Majority of things we picked up is at home.
The game on there, most of its community is ran by women. But not every franchise needs to be for everyone. Not every game needs to be focus tested into.
That's the thing too. They're making it for it's not for everybody. Okay, there are certain shows I watch, and people have told me, oh, it's great. For example, people telling me to watch Shameless. I am not watching Shameless. I have seen a trailer. I want a compilation of what's his name, the dad. That dude gives me anxiety, and it kind of makes me a little mad because he's such a bad father. I am not watching the show. That show will literally give me anxiety. I'm not doing it.
To swap some
I don't care how good the show is.
Games need to be specific. Some things are allowed to be made for somebody else. Now, sure, part of this is about money, at least on the developer side. Broader appeal does mean bigger numbers, but for the media, most of these critics and the people on the...
So this is the thing with broader appeal. I feel like when these guys in suits in this game companies are like telling the developers to do that, they're looking at the dollar sign. But if you make a game for everybody, you make a game for nobody. Like, making a game for a certain audience is not that bad. Because if you cater to that audience, you will always have that money. If the game is good, people from outside that audience will come in, check it out, and be like, this game is good. It has literally opened my mind to these type of games. And that's how you get new fans, instead of trying to cater to the people who are never going to play your game anyway. Cater to your fan base, and the rest, like, they will come. If it's a good game, they will come. And this is my problem with Monster Hunter Wilds, that I feel like they cater too much to the normie. And I think the average player, they cater too much for the average player. And the game has basically lost some of its sauce. I think the Capcom, I think the developers, because now that I have played the game for like an hour, 130 hours, and when I compare it to my 1,000 hours plus hours in Monster Hunter World, all those little inconveniences like hot drink, cold drink, you tracking the monster, all that is immersion. And when you take that away and go straight to the fighting, I feel like you lose a little bit of the flavor of the game. And that's why I only got an hour, 130 hours in the game, because I feel like, they take me straight to the fight. I just farm the monster, get what I gotta go, and go, which is fine. But that's not what I play Monster Hunter for. I want to get immersed. I literally want that. I want to be immersed and play the game the whole day. So I feel like, don't get me wrong, it's still a good game, but they gotta fix the performance on PC, or it's so bad. But it's still a good game, but I feel like Monster Hunter World still has that richer sauce. It could be my bias because World was my first Monster... Well, technically it was unofficially my first Monster Hunter that I clicked with right away. Yeah.
On the sidelines, it's not about sales, it's about control. It's about reshaping the medium to match how they think and what they think other people should value, how they think that other people should behave. It's less about what...
Also, these game journalism, their ideologies is they're the minority and the loudest. The majority, the average gamer, does not give a F about what they just want they want beautiful characters, right? Because they want a character that they see themselves as if they were a prime, if they could build themselves up in their prime. So young, beautiful head of hair, muscular. And for the female character, somebody they can be with. That's all it is. It's literally the player wants is their ideal form that they would like in real life, and the woman they would be with. That's it. But what these developers have got lost is all these other nonsense that don't matter. And on top of that, the story sucks. The combat sucks. And then after all the millions of dollars these companies have invested, it's gone down the drain because you have a pile of crap. You, ironically, the game lacks identity. Ironically.
What the game does and more about who it does it for. Because at the end of the day, Stellar Blade didn't really commit any sort of moral offense. It just refused to apologize who it was made for.
And that's the thing. Once you have a good game, never apologize. Let your game speak for itself.
What ends up happening is they want to force their way through every single franchise and every single game that's out there. And I've said this a million times, my haters will completely disagree. They'll likely make a video saying that I'm a liar about it. But much of this comes down to target audiences. It's not like inclusive themes or diverse themes can't exist in games. It's just
Yeah, they can. It's just nobody develops the writing, the story, and the combat. Like all around, everything suffers. Dragon Age suffered. Concord suffered. Every other, like, what are we doing?
It's just they can't exist in every single game because not every single game is made for everyone. A lot of this just comes down to target audiences. But that's not enough for them.
That's another thing too. The time we're living in right now is the most anybody has ever played in the game ever. So that's quite a bit of people. So even if you cater to a quote unquote a demographic of people, you're making millions of dollars. But that's what the thing with these companies is, they are greedy.
So what ends up happening is that they see something that conflicts with their worldview, and while they can't outright condemn it because it's too good to condemn, they use subtlety. They use subtext to be able to do so. So they gently nudge you in the direction of not wanting to play the game, and they gently nudge the developer in the direction of not making games like that. I had a girlfriend once, crazy, I know, but she had a guy friend, completely platonic. Believe me, this dude didn't have a shot. But after they would hang out, every time I would see her, she would be on me about something, always. And one time, she came by and she had said something like, "You never let me do what I want to do." Scouts honor, I'd never stop this girl.
That's never happened to me. Thank God.
Doing a single thing because her doing something else meant that I was playing video games, and that was definitely not something I was going to be trying to stop. But when that happened, it clicked, and I realized it was him. She was gossiping, she was friend zoning, and he was very subtly nudging her in the direction of being more angry, about thinking that there's other things that are going on, making her believe that there's something else that was going on. And
Oh, that's a scummy move.
I brought it up. I said, "This isn't real. This is what's happening." And she was pissed at me for saying that. And I told her that if we broke up, he would confess to her. She got even more angry. She broke up with me. 2 days later, he shows up at her door with flowers and a confession. I got an apology. The same thing is happening with these reviews because it's the negative framing, and it's also the conscious and subconscious part that's happening. The conscious part is I don't like the guy because she's with that guy.
Yep, that's what it did to Wukong. They didn't like the game because the developer are Chinese, and they didn't like these multicolored hair individuals don't like China.
Right? So like I don't like this game because these players.
By the way, guys, China is killing it with the games right now. They're making beautiful games, beautiful combat. Yeah, the West has literally lost. Like we're playing catch up at this point.
This game, and the other part of it is that they don't really know anything about them or the relationship. So that's more of the subconscious part of it. And I guarantee that some of these writers do truly believe, well, I reviewed the game positively. No, you didn't. You saw that Asmongold liked the game. You saw that some anti-woke folks over on Twitter were raving about it, and subconsciously, you did not want that game to be good. You did not.
That's a fair point.
Want them to get a win. You wanted it to be bad or mediocre, and because of that, you were predisposed to not.
That's exactly what I said earlier. They're literally grading the game on their own bias lens, like through their own bias lens.
Like that game.
They need to like have their writing or journalism degree taken away because that's literally English 101. You read something, analyze something, remove the bias from it.
And that came through in your reviews. That happens. We've seen that happen quite a lot. Now, one thing that I will say, and this is something that I think we all can agree on, is that Eve is hot as hell. Like, distractingly
Agreed.
so, to the point where I don't even really know what I'm supposed to be
Distractingly so? I don't think so. Not after you get past the first 5 hours of the game is fine.
focused on. But that pivots to a touchy topic, which is what this game's success proves. And that's that really attractive characters and solid game design make one hell of a combination. I went into Stellar Blade with incredibly low.
Honestly, I don't think it's the attractive thing. I think it's just really good game design because I don't think Kratos is an attractive character. Well, I don't like guys. But the gameplay is pretty solid. It's pretty good. Souls games, you don't even see your character's face after you put armor on them. The combat is very solid. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've been looking at the characters when I'm in the heat of combat, like a game like this, where you have to pay attention to the enemy, or you're gonna lose every time. You're looking at some jiggles. You know what I mean?
Low expectations, not just because of what I read, but also because I'd already been burned. Because right before playing it, I tried the first Ascendant, a painfully shallow experience that left me convinced that these stylized, hyper-attractive female character designs were just a cheap marketing trick.
First Ascendant was not bad. The gun gameplay was very good, but their monetization sucked. Like The gunplay was very good. I like the gunplay. It felt good. It was solid.
It felt like the developers thought that all they needed was hot girls on the screen and the
Because this is the thing. After a while, guys, hot girls on the screen is not gonna do it for you. If the gameplay is not there, that artificial visual candy goes away pretty quick.
rest would be taken care of by itself. No soul, no design vision, just pretty faces wrapped up in a lifeless game. So I assumed that Stellar Blade would be the exact same thing, and I was wrong, completely wrong, because I've played Stellar Blade for quite a while now, and part of the reason why I'm making this video right now is because I think this game was radical.
Also, Nintendo, bring Bayonetta 3 to PC or a Switch 2 board.
Mischaracterized. Critics tried to paint it as a budget Nier Automata, a Temu clone with jiggle physics, but what I actually saw was something completely different, a sincere.
And because, mark my words, guys, because the success of this game, we will have more games with beautiful characters and good gameplay.
Imperfect love letter to Yoko Taro's masterpiece. And I do not invoke the name of that game lightly. Nier Automata is one of the most emotionally and structurally complete games that I have ever played. Its storytelling, its music, its pacing, the way that everything ties together. Very few games even come close to what Nier has accomplished. And to be clear, Stellar Blade does not reach those heights, but it tries. And that's what I find so fascinating. Most games would never even attempt that kind of ambition, but Shift Up somehow did on their very first AAA game. And honestly, a lot of what's...
Yeah, props to Shift Up. Whoever is the lead for the game, like the leads in all the departments, and you guys were good leaders because you guys as a team put a my window is open, sorry about that. You guys really put together a really good game.
What's going on here actually works.
I'm very
impressed.
impressed.
It's gorgeous. It's drenched in this quiet sense of despair. You explore cities that are slowly being reclaimed by nature, walking past towers and scattered remnants of what clearly used to be a thriving civilization. The notes you find, the little scraps of history, the fragments of loss, it all builds to something eerily beautiful. The traversal can be a little bit janky at times, but the environments feel distinct and fully realized. It's all rendered with a level of visual polish that most veteran studios cannot achieve. Some of the reviewers were trying to criticize the game's soundtrack for trying to copy off of Nier, but this soundtrack goes hard and it is all on its own. One minute you have these dreamy ambient tracks, the next it's this melodic K-pop, and then suddenly you're in a boss fight with metalcore blast beats that are pushing you into hyper-focused mode where you're just going off on a boss. And then there's the combat. My god, the combat. One-on-one. It's some of the most satisfying gameplay that I've had all year.
Yeah,
it can be a little bit awkward in group fights
good.
since there's not really a lot of like enemy clustering mechanics. I wish that when you would swing or do AoEs, it would group enemies and then you'd be able to use your AoE attacks the way you would actually want to. But in single target encounters, it just all clicks together. The moveset just keeps expanding as you continue to play. You start with basic attacks, then you get dash counters, parry chains, repulsion dodges, and all kinds of different skill-specific combo finishers. You've got beta attacks for breaking shields, launching enemies, or dishing out AoE damage. You can weave between these heavy and light string attacks to create all these different combos depending on your timing. And yeah, it even has its own full-blown devil trigger mode where
Meta.
If they make a second game, yeah, that game is definitely going to be a Game of the Year contender, for sure.
For a few seconds and just shreds everything on the screen. From where I'm standing, Stellar Blade isn't just one thing. It just feels like somebody that really liked video games, blending all of their favorite games together. It pulls in the challenge and structure from Dark Souls and Elden Ring.
And that's what you want, right? As a game developer, that's what you want. You want to pull your imagination and experiences from games you like to create a beautiful homunculus.
The fast-paced combat and style of Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, and the atmosphere, the music, and emotional core of a game that he clearly
worked. Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, God of War, Gears of War.
Shift Up doesn't nail everything, well, except for Eve's curves. They definitely got that part right. But what they do land is ambition. It actually reminds me of the time where I used to play in a metalcore band, and we opened once for this regional act that was called Ice 9 Kills. And I remember thinking to myself, damn, these guys are legit. I can't wait to see what they do next. And then a few years later, they ended up breaking the Billboard Top 200. And that's what this feels like to me, because the fact that this is Shift Up's first AAA game is just wild to me. It runs beautifully on PC, it looks incredible, plays smooth, and it isn't filled with microtransactions or recycled mechanics. And it's not just technically solid. This game has identity. They made the game that they wanted to make for the audience that they wanted to reach. No compromise, no diluted vision, just style, skill, and a clarity of purpose. That's why it all works.
Again, you got your money.
So successful, and that's why they deserve every bit of their success.
I don't think I want to say I believe when they were making this game, the guys in suits who were hovering above the developers did not see money signs and got too greedy, because you could really feel the love that they put into this game.
But that success is also why backlash exists, because when I look at how Stellar Blade has been received and how often games that target...
If you hate this game for whatever reason, fair, that's your opinion, but at some point you're just hating. If your big criticism is the game is really good, but the character is too hot, you're just a hater.
Male audiences get framed.
Like the hotness of the character gives the game a lesser score. If anything, wouldn't it give it a higher score?
In negativity, it's not hard to see what's happening. Over the years, games have been quietly sorted into categories. You've got male games, which are shooters, military sims, and sports titles, and then everything else is supposed to be made for everyone. And the kind of stuff that sits in the middle, the kind of stuff that used to sit in the middle, the action games with the striking stylized characters and unapologetically masculine...
Honestly, I don't want to play a game that's made for everybody. I want to play a game that's made for a specific audience. And when I try that game, if I haven't played a game like that before, then I will have to learn the game. This is what people don't like, is they don't like to learn a game. It took me a while to learn Dark Souls 3. because it took me literally like 2 days to beat that tutorial boss, and I came off of Bloodborne. But now I'm good. Like I sleep through Elden Ring. It's fantastic.
And energy, most of that stuff has either been toned down or phased out entirely. We've seen the slow erosion of attractive characters under the guise of modern sensibilities. Even Japanese developers have started to shift their designs to avoid criticism. Remember World CEO saying they added a character creator because Westerners like making ugly characters. That wasn't a joke, it was a business move. These guys have been talking about this. We've seen other studios admit that they've removed or redesigned
It's not like we like ugly characters. We like the troll of the ugly character.
female characters out of the fear that they're going to be labeled as sexist or exclusionary. And look, I'm not trying to wade into any culture war here. I am not trying to argue about morality or politics, but the simple truth is products succeed when they accurately serve their audience. That's it. You cannot make a gritty sci-fi action game with Souls-like difficulty and Devil May Cry combat for a general audience. You are by definition targeting niche.
That's a crazy combo for a general audience, bro. A Devil May Cry and Souls-like? Nah.
And that niche is overwhelmingly male. The only real difference that I'm seeing between Eastern and Western studios right now is that Eastern studios are not afraid to own that. They are not embarrassed to make games for dudes. And when that kind of game has been missing from the market,
this is what people don't understand. The game industry is male dominated. The player base is majority of male. So you cater to a small subsection of males, you gonna make money.
When their only other options are gacha games or mobile cash grabs, it's no surprise that something like Stellar Blade lands as hard as it does. Of course it found an audience. Of course that audience loves it because the game knew exactly who it was for and it didn't flinch. The one thing that I think people really need to understand is that all games have a right to exist, but they all don't have a right to success. Games only succeed when they're being made for a real audience, an audience that actually exists, an audience that's actually going to be interested in that game. Take Forspoken as an example. For all of its flaws, it was still a decent action game. It had a cool premise, a gorgeous world, incredible traversal, and fun combat, but the problem was the audience of players of that kind of game is overwhelmingly male, and when you build your story around a lead character who's bitter, cynical, and nearly impossible to root for, when the tone and the writing feels like it's being made for a demographic that barely even plays video games, you're not being bold, you're being delusional. You can make a game like that, but you have to be honest about the scope, the budget, and the actual reach that it can have. And there is nothing, and I mean nothing wrong with making a game for dudes. I love emotionally complex games, a diverse cast of characters, powerful writing, but deep down, I'm genetically wired, no, compelled, to play the game with the hot girl with the nasty-ass monsters, with the big sword and the giant explosions. I like things that look fun and look fun to hit, and so do a lot of people. What we're seeing right now with a lot of these recent Eastern releases is the pendulum swinging back. It's a return to cultural authenticity. When Yoko Taro comes forward and says that he made 2B sexy because I really just like girls, people respect that. When Stellar Blade's director says that I challenge modders to see what they can do, or that adult mods shouldn't be banned for any reason whatsoever, people listen not because it's provocative, but because it's honest. No deflection, no PR shield, no pearl clutching, just saying what everybody already knows. Guys like hot girls, girls like hot girls. We like things that look good, and there's no
That's what I just said.
shame in that. I think it's really easy to assume that games like Stellar Blade, Nier, Bayonetta, and more are just tapping into baser instincts. Like that alone is the formula. But what people are actually responding to here is the clarity, it's the creative confidence, the refusal to water things down and pretend like you're aiming for something that you're not. That honesty resonates, not because it's bold, but because it feels rare in a space that has become so obsessed with risk management and mass appeal. But even with that authenticity, intention only gets you so far, because the truth is, it's not enough. And Stellar Blade proves that, and that's what makes this game even more important. Hot characters alone do not make a game work. Just look at the First Descendant, a game that had the looks, but none of the
Yep, no substance.
It's lost over 98% of its player base because they never prioritized gameplay. The devs thought that they could just coast with surface level appeal, but all they delivered was a shallow, aggressively monetized mess. And their last biggest update that they did, well, they added jiggle physics, and I'm sure the dozen players that are left playing the game appreciated it, but it doesn't fix a hollow game. Gameplay and quality always come first. And that's what I find really frustrating when I see a game like Stellar Blade framed the way that it was. So many outlets and critics, even players that were fixated on how
they're literally pushing an agenda. And anybody with common sense can see that they're pushing an agenda and totally disagree with them. That's why, like, it's like literally giving me inspiration to like just make videos totally disagree with them, because I feel like if you're looking at something for years and your common sense is telling you no, you're wrong, but then they're gaslighting you in a room full of crazy people, you're the crazy one. You know what I mean? Because you're the odd man out. You're the crazy one.
How characters were portrayed in the game, suffocating the conversation that we should have had. This was Shift Up's first shot at a AAA title, and they crushed it. No, it's not perfect. No, it wasn't made for everyone, but it was a damn good game. It knew exactly who it was made for, and it delivered. That is worth celebrating. That is worth respecting. And frankly, it's a lesson that a lot of studios could learn from. I think the desire to see games like Stellar Blade fail comes from the fallacy that games are a 50-50 split, regardless of genre, between male.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not equal. There is differences, gender differences. Nothing is equal.
Not the case. And they think that if games like this succeed, well, then these companies are going to be more inclined to make games like those. And then it also goes to prove that the vast majority of things that people say online don't actually even matter. And when they are offline, they're just going to go buy the things that they want regardless.
Yeah, from now, like, this is just like food for thought. Do not judge people what they say online. Because the keyboard and it gives them, feels like, I guess it gives them a shield. I don't take nothing seriously. Even if the people are like in front of you saying crazy things, if you don't know those people, they're not your boss. They don't affect your money. Just walk away, because they're nothing and nobody to you. So don't have that ruin your day. I work in a field where I have to deal with crazy people all the time, and It's just like water off a duck's back. It's nothing to me. I just go along with my day and I have a good time, and they get to be themselves because they can't escape, and they get to be miserable. They're not gonna ruin my day because they are emotionally stunted.
And if there's more money in games like that,
And that's how you should treat people online. Treat them as if they're children throwing a temper tantrum, even if it's in real life. If they're not attacking you physically, like about to attack you, treat them as if they're a child throwing a temper tantrum. And it usually resolves itself.
then there's less money in games like Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and that doesn't necessarily sit right with a lot of people's worldview.
Yep, Veilguard was a failure.
Hostile of an environment it has to be a game developer that's trying to make a game or trying to make games that are going to please everybody and not offend anybody.
Yeah, that's an impossible task. That's like trying to make a perfect game. That's not happening. Except if you're Sekiro. But Sekiro's not perfect because there's no DLC for it.
Actually, I take that back. I know exactly how that is. I'll be honest. When I first started making YouTube videos a couple years ago, now I guess it's actually 2 years now, I tried to play both sides. If it was a game that I hated, I would try to talk about the good side. If it was a game that I liked, I tried to talk about the bad side.
I don't see a problem with that because I feel like it's good to stick to the middle because you can see both sides. A lot of the times people get lost in the left and the right and totally ignore the viewpoint of the other side and only stick to their biases, which is very bad.
If it's a culture issue or something like that,
I like to stay in the middle and
that works. And that's just not what people want. Because
look at all angles.
So eventually I just got to the point where I said,
except when it comes to Nintendo. Yeah, I'm on the hate train for Nintendo because they deserve it, honestly.
Funny enough, all the labels that people used to throw on me when I was making those super nice videos, yeah, they're all still here. They're still the same. Doesn't matter what you do. People are going to do that regardless. It's like I said before, in the eyes of the players, when they see a game like Stellar Blade, it's counterculture. It is so refreshingly blunt. This is an old term, and you don't really hear.
That's true. Who would have thought that the way it was back in the prime time of game development would be refreshing in our modern day? And that's it for me, guys. The era of good games are back. We will be having beautiful characters with good game design. And remember, you have the power. They want your money. They have no power. As long as they're trying to get those grubby little fingers in your wallet, you have the power.